What up, gamers? I'm Jason.
I'm Julie.
And today on Dice and Dragons, we are going to be reviewing Tapestry, published by Stonemaier Games, with some assistance from Atoma Factory to design the solo mode, and it is designed by Jamey Stegmaier. Now, we just want to say thanks to Jamey and Stonemaier Games for sending us this review copy of the game. That being said, our opinions are our own. Anything to add to that, Julie?
Nope.
So take it away. Tell everyone more about the game itself.
It is a competitive game.
Ooh, competitive. We've got a few of those reviewed lately.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it's changing. Maybe we'll play some more competitive games.
Maybe. So it's a 1 to 5 player game intended for ages 12 and above. Plays in about 90 to 120 minutes.
Yeah, I think that definitely depends on the player count. The more players you have, the longer it's going to take. The nice thing about the games is that the rounds go by fairly quickly. Now, what are you going to be doing in Tapestry? Well, you have your civilization, you've got your civilization mat and your capital city. There are 4 different tracks as well as a game board, play space, islands, in any case, places to build up your civilization. You're either going to progress along the military, technology, exploration, or science track.
Or all of them.
Or all of them, yes. You're going to be taking the actions related to those tracks in order to gain the most points possible and win the game. You also need to build a little bit of your engine because as you start moving up the tracks, you get landmarks, you get technology, so one action can feed into another. It's not quite an engine building game, but there is some small elements of that in it. At least that's what I think. What do you think, Julie?
Agreed.
All right, so what time is it now?
It's time to grab our drinks.
Grab our best friend. We're going to take it to the table.
Take it to the table.
Yeah, one more time. Wonder who's going to win.
We shall see.
Let's take a look at the components for Tapestry. Now, as we usually do here, we'll start with the ones that I don't have on camera. So we've got the rule book. As you can see, the game is not necessarily rules light, but you don't have a lot of explanation that you need in order to play the game, as the way what you're going to be doing is fairly straightforward. So we have the 4-page rulebook for Tapestry. We also have the Shadow Empire variant that you can use to add an automated player to a 2-player game. I believe you can do this on a 3 or 4 as well, but it's not really necessarily recommended. Then we also have the 4-page rulebook for the Atoma, which will let you play Tapestry solo. So with regard to the Atoma, there's also an Atoma deck that we'll take a look at quickly. Now, this was a little tricky to figure out, but not so bad. So just on top of the Atoma deck, I actually have the reference cards. So we'll look at those first. So you're going to want those when you play against the Atoma as well. So you just have these 5 cards that explain how to play the game. And then the Atoma has their own deck of cards, as well as some explanations as to what their symbols mean. Explanations how they're going to take their turn, as well as some specific Atoma civilizations and level cards. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well when we take a look at the Atoma in a little bit more detail. Here we've got the reference sheets. So the game comes with 2 of them. One side references the track. The other just gives you a nice reference for the tech cards. So we started looking at the cards. We'll actually continue with them. We're going to go across. Now here we've got the different tech cards. These are things you're going to be able to invent in Tapestry. Now some of them are a little different, as they actually allow you to invent landmarks that you don't see on the board. For example, there's the barn. Here we've got the telephone. And you can really get a good look at that one. We've got the stock exchange. Now you notice these are full painted miniatures. Here we've got the library. I'm trying to remember what the other ones are. We've got another 2. We'll take a quick look through the deck. So we also have the treasury, which is this building right here. As you see, one side's got a door on it. Now, tricky to keep these cards all the same way. Let's see where we've got the other one. We already looked at the library. Yeah, comm tower. Sorry, I thought it was a telephone. So the other one is a bakery. which is the last of the landmarks. Now we'll take a look at just a little bit how these tech cards work. When you invent them, they go there on your city mat. You will not get any reward for them until you upgrade them. Upgrade them once, get this award. Upgrade them twice to get that last award. And you also have to meet the prerequisites. That's how you're going to be getting your landmark buildings. So those are the tech cards. They essentially give you different ways to get resources and buildings. Now here we have the Tapestry cards. And the big thing about these is they're played at the end of an era. And they're going to give you sometimes specific upgrades for an era. So for example, you ignore upgrade prerequisites on tech cards. And then whenever you upgrade a card, you gain 3 victory points. Diplomacy, each player gains a resource. You also gain 1 building from your income mat. There are some actually, I'm trying to find some of the cool ones here. Exploitation, whenever you place an exploitation tile, you may gain double the benefit on the tile. If you don't, you can gain victory points. Pretty cool. Terraforming lets you build in different spots in your capital city. Obstructed ones. Don't worry, we'll talk about those capital city mats next. So those are pretty cool. And you get an idea, just everything is very different. Like the Age of Wonders, you're going to gain 2 resources. If you have the fewest landmarks, if you have the most, you can gain 12 victory points. Or for ties, you'll gain 1 resource and 6 victory points. So pretty cool stuff. And this does add a lot of different aspects to the game. You never know which Tapestry cards are going to come into play and how it's necessarily going to affect your game. Now, each player is going to have a capital city. Now, all of said capital cities are numbered. I didn't put them in order. See, number 1 is mountain, 4 desert. Got 1 snuck in upside down, 2 wetland. We'll actually put them in order. 5 grassland, 6 forest, 3 tropical. Now, they just denote where you can build. These dots are already filled up. And over here just tells you that if you complete a space, including the dots, you actually will gain a resource. We're going to, instead of putting these back, because you can see I got mats under here, we're going to move them off camera. Next, we've got all the different civilizations, and I normally like to take a quick peek at stuff, but there's a lot of them. So you're going to have a lot of variety in this game. Historians, heralds, the chosen, mystics, alchemists, craftsmen. And you notice that each civilization has its own power, which will give a little bit different flavor to it as it'll play differently. For example, the entertainers, you start with a token here, and at the end of each era, you can move through this grid to gain different resources. The leaders let you gain benefits by going up tracks at the end of each income turn. Architects have some bonuses for buildings. Militants get bonuses for conquering. So lots of cool stuff. And the futurists actually start further down the track than anyone else. Then we have, of course, the player mats here. So we have, I knew that snuck in there, so we'll put that at the back. We have 5 player mats. So you just here you've got your market track, houses track, farms, and then armories. Now these are represented by these buildings here. This is an armory. Here we have a market, houses, farms. These are the resources and the resource markers that are associated with those tracks. Now just explains your income turn. So civilization power, play a tapestry card, upgrade your tech card, gain victory points, and then gain income, moving these markers up your resource track. As you go along the game, you're going to be trying to play these things into your capital city. So get them off your mat and then into your capital city. Now, we also have a player mat for the Atoma. It's a double-sided mat, so you can play on normal or hard. And you've got different levels for the Atoma. Now, normal is considered levels 1 through 4. Hard, as you saw on the back, was levels 5 and 6. So we'll just, actually, I like it better with the civilization mats over here. We'll keep the things that we just moved off camera. Now, for the civilizations, each of them gets these little towers, outposts, as well as a player token of the color. So you can see them right here. White, green, yellow, blue, red. Now I'm going to pick them up and show them. You're not going to get too much detail on the camera. You also have these different types of tiles, exploration tiles, which can then be placed on the map. You can see some resources on them, and depending on how you place them, well, you may be able to score points, and even as you can see in this case, gain a tapestry card. Now, if you go far enough down one of the tracks, you can actually explore space. Once you get the space, you can find these tiles, which can give you some big points, like 13 victory points here. This lets you score your capital city, as well as gain a resource. So pretty cool stuff if you manage to make it into outer space. Now, as you move down these tracks, and then we'll take a look at the board next, you can see these landmark spaces. And if you're the first to get there, you gain these different landmarks, which will go, actually bring one of the capital city spaces back, which will go into your capital city, just like the ones from the tech card. Come on, place them where you've got room, but some of them can fill up a whole area. Others maybe let you like sort of build around it. You can also place the landmark slightly off your city map if you need to. So just keep that in mind. But these landmarks are important as they let you get resources. Here we've got the fusion reactor. I want to showcase them because they're absolutely fantastic. I love the sculpts, love the quality. I mean, you can see just the detail around it, and you'll notice that these end ones all have a little bit of that same feel and design, and that goes through all the ones from specific eras, like this tank factory matches well with the academy, and the fusion reactor matched well with the laboratory. Here we've got the apothecary, which looks similar to the barracks. Next, we've got the tech lab right here. The launch pad, so be the first to get this. You'll be the first to be heading off into space. Here we've got the train station. We have the rubber works. The forge, I mean, got to start somewhere, right? And, of course, a lighthouse. We also have these dice. No, 2 6-sided die have resources and different symbols. You play them when you're going to be conquering territory. Here we've got the science die, which you roll to move up a specific track. Well, whatever the science die tells you to do. Now, I'll take a quick look at the board. Don't worry, you'll see it in more detail. And what we're looking at right here, what I'm unfolding, and I believe it's upside down, but it's all good because we're going to flip it over anyway. Try to get as low as possible. So this is the 4 to 5 player side. Now, when you flip the board over, you get a smaller map, which represents the 1 to 3 player side. That symbol is down there in that left-hand corner so that you can know which map you're playing. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the video, during the intro, just because of how I learned this game, we're not going to be doing a how to play. We'll actually be doing a gameplay overview of Tapestry. So keep it right here as I'll be coming back at you with that. And then Julie and I are going to be teaching. We're going to be reviewing Tapestry. Now let's take a look as to what we're going to be doing in Tapestry. So this is a gameplay overview. You can see by the amount of space that is taken up here, this game does take up quite a fair bit of room. Now this is a 2-player setup. I've got the yellow player right here. My civilization are the entertainers. So I've got my token at the start. My capital city is number 1. I go up there. I've just decided to place player 2 over here. My mat is all set up with 5 of the different houses. We've got our landmark board. Our tech cards are readily available, as well as our tapestry cards. And you also have a token for us and our opponent at the beginning of each of the tracks. We also have the science die next to the science track, the military die next to the military track. Now, what are we going to be doing in Tapestry? Well, the first thing we need to do is get some resources, get some income. So we follow the process of the income turn. However, you'll notice that the only thing we can do on the first turn, as they're tiny numbers here, is gain income. So we gain 1 of each resource. We gain a tile, which can be used during our exploration, as well as a tapestry card. So broker peace, it means that this era, after it's played. Now, don't forget that will only be played once we move into a new era. You cannot advance on the military track. Each time an opponent advances on that track, though, you do gain 3 victory points. So that goes in our hand, which is off camera. Now, what am I going to be doing in this game? Well, I'm going to be paying different resources to advance up different tracks and gain different rewards. So if you notice that the science track uses this, that houses this knowledge resources. You've got the technology track, which uses your money resource. The military track, which will be using your culture resource. And the exploration track, which will use food. Now, when you start the game, this symbol here means any resource. So it doesn't matter what you pay. You can move up any track that you choose. So let's say I want to move up the technology track. Well, I could pay 1 money or something else. I move up to this position. I would then gain a tech card. Well, not from there. This is the card that's going to replace it, but I can pick any one of the 3 tech cards that are here. So I had access to warships, dynamite, ammonia. I kind of like dynamite actually when I look at it. So I'll take the dynamite. This goes, I just place it so you can see it. I know that part of this is off camera on the lower part of my board. Now, as I advance, there'll be different symbols, such as the one right here, which is the arrow, which means I can upgrade it. And when you upgrade it, you gain the resource that's there for the circle. Then provided you met the prerequisites, you will gain whatever is in the square once you get it all the way up your track. So that's what you're going to be doing essentially with technology. Now, we'll just move right up the science track. You'll see here it says, tells them to roll the science die. What it says here is they roll, but they gain no benefit. Well, they get to also go up the military track. Now I'm going to continue up the tech track. So that'll cost me another resource. I will gain a Tapestry card. This one, plea for aid. So for each track where all tokens are more advanced than yours, gain 2 victory points and a resource. Well, that's pretty cool. And you notice it has this when played element. Now there's a symbol over here that shows that you can play down a Tapestry card, and there's technology that may let you play a card over another existing card. So keep that in mind. There are elements like that that may come into play. But I've now gone up to carpentry, but I can pay another resource of any type, get one of these buildings, and place them in my capital city. Now, when I'm building my capital city, my goal is to complete as many rows and columns as possible to score victory points from this symbol here, as well as fully complete a square, like by having a landmark in it, in order to gain another resource. But as you can see, though, I've already spent 1, 2, 3 resources. I'm almost done. There isn't much more that I'd be able to do. So that's sort of what would happen if I went up the tech track. Now we'll just show you what would happen if someone goes up the exploration track. You could do scouting. While scouting, you gain 2 tiles. Now, let's say they continued up said exploration track. They would get the ability to explore, which would be to place a die. You get to score victory points based on how many matching terrain types there are. So, for example, water, 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 and water. So you're scoring 1, 2, 3, 4 points. On it, you also gain that resource. Now, this symbol here lets you do the conquer action, which will let you place 1 and only 1 outpost. That's very important because that's how other players can conquer spaces. Let's say yellow it, for example. Get some resources, and of course I move my entertainers. We could be competing to get to the middle because there are these different achievements. So conquer middle island, 10 or 5 victory points. Topple 2 opponents' outposts, 10 or 5 victory points. Complete any advancement track. So shoot all the way down to the end. It's 10 victory points. Now let's say our second player got there first. Well, they would get that 10 victory points. No, slide them up on the track. But yellow could then decide to invade them by taking a conquer action. So my player, what you then do is you place your outpost there and topple theirs. There are trap cards and things that can change how that works. Now, other things that we're going to potentially want to do is keep going up these tracks to gain the landmarks, get these big things in our cities. See, this one almost takes up a full space. Well, if you put it up here, not quite taking up a full space. So this one doesn't work great. So maybe it would have been better to go up the exploration track or science track to gain those different resources. But you get the idea as to what we're trying to do. And that's really a basic overview as to what you're going to be doing in Tapestry. We'll quickly just take a look at what will happen during an income turn. So at this point, as you can see, no resources left, not much I can do. Well, it's time to go into the next phase. The first player to play a Tapestry card gains the bonus, which is one resource of their choice. Then you go through all the steps. So I can upgrade tech card. It gives me a conquer action. So let's say that this was an actual setup. It really isn't. I could gain a conquer action. Keep going this way. Now, you can't conquer your opponent's capital city. So ever 2 outposts in a location can't be conquered. So went ahead, did that. We then score victory points. I gain victory points for each tech card right there. For completed columns and rows, don't have any of that. So essentially be like, 1 victory point for that. Then we gain our resources. So 2 money, another food, 1 knowledge, 1 culture. And then play is going to continue. I would once again also gain a Tapestry card as well as another tile. And there you have it. That's the gist of what you're going to be doing in Tapestry. You really want to look for these different combos and really fill up your city to score some real big points towards the end of the game. I mean, my best game so far, and I've had a few plays, a little bit more than Julie, was just over 200. I know that some players can get up to like 250, 300. I mean, there's a possibility of 400. You can, it's a little bit off the track there, but I believe you can still see it. So keep that in mind. Hope you enjoyed this overview of the game. Now Julie and I are going to be coming back at you with our review of Tapestry. So Tapestry by Stonemaier Games. What did you think of the game? Now this is our second Stonemaier game and would have almost been our third, but unfortunately we have not found time to play Charterstone. It was part of our plans for 2020, but well, everyone knows what happened, and it's a legacy game, so we really wanted the full experience. In any case, back to what we were discussing.
So
Take it away.
I was pretty impressed when I walked by and saw you playing the solo against the Otoma. There's a lot of components with this, so it was a little impressive and a little overwhelming when you're looking at it from the outside. You got your civilizations, you got the maps, you got your board, you got all of the landmarks. I was going to say the landscape. The landmarks. It's quite impressive. I actually was pretty impressed with those landmarks. They're nice. They're like having the minis.
Yes, and very good quality. Love the fact that they're painted. Lots of detail on the landmarks. I like them. I've got some negative things to say about it, but Julie's talking, so I'll bring that up when I get to
I also like the production quality on the cards on the civilization. I don't know what you call that kind of texture.
Linen finish, I believe. It's the linen texture that you get on there. And yeah, so that's one of for those of you that are followers of us, maybe never played a Stonemaier game, that's one of their staples is going for those upgraded components. So you might get a game that, is going to be sitting around that $50, $60 range, but usually you've got some really nice cardstock, finish, things like that.
So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the art. So from a production quality, I think it was fun. I don't know if you have anything else that you want to say about the production.
Production-wise, I would say I like the board and I dislike the board at the same time. I don't like all the gray. I'm actually just looking at the back of the box right now. I do think that it looks great as you're filling in the tiles, but I think it is just a little bland. Overall, I would say great iconography, very easy to understand once you've learned what you're looking at, and it doesn't take very long, everything flows. You didn't have too many questions as to what you were doing, just mainly with regards to what the different tracks are. I did find the fact that we got 2 reference sheets very helpful. Often you only get one and you're passing it around the table, so I do think that was a very nice plus.
Sorry, just to jump on the reference sheet, I definitely felt it was required because when you're sitting, the board's quite big, so when you're trying to figure out what the next step is on the next track, it's good to be able to read that on the reference sheet.
I'll have to agree with that. You can also, I believe, print out probably some smaller ones. Now, we did not play with any of the civilization balances yet because we got just a couple of plays in. We didn't run into the situation where we necessarily needed to make those adjustments. So that just got a little sidetracked there because you mentioned the reference sheet. So talking about the components, good card stock, no complaints. I did decide to sleeve the cards anyway, as on some surfaces they were just a little tricky to pick up and didn't want to damage them. But one thing that I love, I just said earlier that I liked it, is the landmarks. I also don't like the landmarks because of the production quality and the value that you're getting. That price is very much in the cost of the game. This is not your typical like $50, $60 price point game, at least in terms of Canadian and where I've seen it retail in like US. You're closer to the, let's on sale at 80 US to 100, 120 Canadian. So you are paying for that production. And if you're someone that doesn't necessarily like the basic principles of Tapestry, which is going to be playing your own game, little less player interaction, trying to do your best to score, you might find that you're paying a lot for something that isn't necessarily what you expected. Now, it is billed as a civilization game, and while you are building your civilization, I do think it differs from the standard definition. So I sit to say, love the production value in Tapestry, but it is definitely on the higher price point, and keep that in mind when you're going to be looking at purchasing the game. Now, I have seen it on sale. If you do like other Stonemaier games, if you like the idea of, you know, trying to score limited player interaction, I do not think you're going to be disappointed with the production value if you pick up the game. If you're looking for something else, well, maybe keep listening to our review and then decide if it's for you or not.
Yeah, so one of the things I'd say is, I believe I mentioned it in the introduction, it requires different strategies for different civilizations. So it's not just a game that you can play the same strategy every time and you'll have a positive outcome to it. It's really gonna depend. I'd be interested to see the game at 4 or 5 players. At 2 players, there's a couple times I was frustrated with you for getting my landmark first or whatever when you saw that I was going for a particular landmark, though you say you didn't purposely go get it.
Well, I didn't have access to one of the other ones. Well, I did. It was just on my track. The one that you were going after was the other 6 landmark. It filled my spot on my, on my capital city.
Yeah. So, it's no secret.
It's not a secret that you should check your battery before you start filming. However, when your DSLR says, everything looks okay, and then it decides it's not, it's never fun. So, Julie, you were saying it's no secret that...
It's no secret that I prefer cooperative games to competitive games, though this one has limited player interaction, though, so it does mitigate that a little bit. This is, to me, a high strategy kind of game. You have to think a lot. So, that has its own, that has to be the style of game that you enjoy playing. So like you said, you have to want to have that low interaction, competitive, play your own game type of thing, and that's the kind of game this is.
Yeah, and there definitely is going to be some more player interaction. Now, we're releasing this just a day after the announcement for the Tapestry expansion hit, so there's going to be some changes coming to it. I'll be curious to see how those integrate with the core game or how easy it is to split it off if you want to just play the base game. Now, the one thing I will also say is, and I'm stealing a quote actually that I heard, it's actually a quote of a quote. I was happening to listen to the Secret Cabal gaming podcast, listening to Don, who was quoting Rodney Smith about Tapestry because he just got it back to the table. And with my plays with the Atoma, and then even in our own plays, it's a very true quote where any civilization and any strategy can be overpowered when you're playing the game. Because of the way the Tapestry cards are going to be coming out, as well as the different combinations of your civilization, some of the die rolls that you may get if you're conquering, as well as going up the civilization track, the tech cards that you get, you can have some really crazy things happen in the game. So the one thing that I would have to add as a critique, I don't think you're always going to find a balanced experience in this game. Now, it gives for high replayability. You're going to have a lot of fun with the low player interaction. You can almost view it as you're competing with other players and you're trying to do your best with the combos that you get to score as high as you can. And I think that's probably going to be the best way to view the game. The most fun you're going to have is by doing that. And from what I've heard from experienced players that have got to the table a lot, like regular scoring points are over 200, close to 300. So there are definitely some ways to ensure that you're going to always be scoring a lot. Now, those ways aren't necessarily self-evident after a couple of plays, which is where we're at currently. The game, I've gotten a few more plays with the Atoma, and that also does work very well. This is a fun solo game. The Atoma deck makes things very simple. You also have the competition from the Shadow Empire, something that we left out during our two-player games, but something we may add the next time that we actually get it to the table. Yeah. But we kind of prefer just going up against each other after playing Pendulum and some of the frustration that Julie had with that third player. We decided to go with just me versus you.
And thanks for bringing up the Tapestry cards. It reminds me that it does have a lot of impact. I was unlucky with my Tapestry cards and even my tech cards that I was pulling compared to what you were able to pull. And it definitely did have an impact on what I was able to generate from a resource perspective. It held me back compared to the ones that you were able to pull that basically helped you out significantly.
It's true, because in our last game that I won by a single point, if I had not gotten the Tapestry cards, and there was one of them that was letting me score points after every time she was getting a landmark, I was out of the game. She should have won the game probably by like 18 points. So there's definitely a swinging nature in the game. Now, I don't really mind it because of the low player interaction, and I just have fun playing the game and competing, and provided that you know that that is a factor of the game, it's not really going to bother you. But if you're one of those players that you need to have everything planned out meticulously, the Tapestry cards and a few other aspects of the game shift the randomness level probably to an uncomfortable point. But I liked it. I thought it was fun. It almost works a little bit like a catch-up mechanic to mean that I'm never going to be completely out of the game if things just don't go my way at the start. You do have some opportunities to get back into it.
Yeah, but proof positive, the first game that we played, I was ahead by like 45 points, and you ended up beating me in the end by like 60 points.
Yes, and that was... I gotta say, that was probably the best game that I actually played of Tapestry. I went down the route of tech, and then at the end of the game, Julie just saw all my tech cards were coming to plays. I was getting a lot of tech cards that she actually wasn't doing. You weren't even on the tech track that game. So I got a lot of landmarks. So at the end of the game, she just saw my capital city, and she was like, oh my god, you're just scoring. And that was pretty cool. I gotta say, one nice thing about the two-player mode is you get to build some really cool cities with lots of landmarks. Yours was far more impressive in the second game than mine was.
Yeah. Well, it depends on the strategy, so.
No, I think we need to just give a nice resume, because we talked a lot about the negatives of the game, and I think we should just sort of...
We talked about some of the positives.
No, but I was going to say, I want to give like final thoughts, like just sort of put it all together, a nice little package. So what I'd have to say about Tapestry, the game is fun. It suits exactly the type of play that we like for competitive games. There's just enough player interaction that we might get a little frustrated with each other, but when it comes time for bed, well, you know what? I don't have a wife that wants to hit me in the face or is like sleeping in the corner, and I'm not frustrated with her and doing the same thing. So for our style of play, it works. I think it's a lot of fun. It's easy to grasp, difficult to master. Wasn't the biggest fan of the rule book, so that's why down below in the video description you will find links to Watch It Played, Rodney Smith, as well as Line A's play of the Atoma. They helped me out a lot. That's one of the reasons why I didn't do that gameplay, how to play the gameplay overview instead. So they're included down below. But there is some factors that certain things like randomness and just a high variability, which makes it very difficult to plan things out, especially with the sheer amount of civilizations, great for replayability, tough for planning, will make difficult. So Tapestry is definitely not for everyone, but it's a game that I'm very happy to have in the collection. I'm eager to learn more about the expansion and even get the expansion, get it to the table to see if we're actually going to get a more strategic experience, because I would find that absolutely fascinating to be able to have this, lighter, more random version. But let's say we're in the mood for something meatier, depending on who's with us, being able to be like, you know what, let's take out the expansion. We'll play Tapestry a little differently tonight.
Yep. So, I'm ready to give it a score.
I don't know if you want to summarize your thoughts.
Well, I'd summarize it with my score, I think.
All right, so you take it away, give it your score.
So for me, it's a 7. I enjoyed playing it. It's not my favorite style of game. As I started saying, it's no secret that I love cooperative games a little bit more. I did enjoy playing it. I had fun with you. I think the biggest thing for me in this, when I'm playing a competitive game, I like to be able to plan, and you just said it's a little bit more difficult to plan what's going on because of the variability, and that's one of the things that I can't. I'm not taking away from the game. That's the game, and that's what it's intended to do. It's just not my favorite style of game.
No, and it showed up in our last game. I think you made a valid point. I was just sort of in the tech game, but I got that last Tapestry card where I started getting points for inventing technology and getting Tapestry cards, and you're like, why are you going up this track you've ignored? And then you're like, oh, you just got 15 victory points. So that is definitely an aspect of the game, and I gotta agree with Julie. I'm giving it 7.5 just for the production value. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna drop to a 7 because that extra production value did raise the cost, but you can see where my thoughts are. This is a solid game. I think if you like beautifully produced, low interaction, competitive games with a lot of variability, this is something that belongs on your shelf. It's a really fun game. It works well solo. So it's one of those games that if you do pick up, you will definitely be able to get it played in one fashion or another. And I'd really like to try it out with more people to see just how that experience works out, especially when there were some cards where it's like, hand something out to your neighbor, potentially get some scoring from other players. I really am curious to see what that competition on tracks looks like when maybe you've got 2 or 3 people that are trying to go up the same track.
Agreed. And that's one of the things I said to start off with. It'd be interesting to see how it plays at a higher player count.
Yeah, but I think we've got our general consensus. We like Tapestry. If you get a chance to check it out, if you find it at that price point that, is just you just want to get it where it's hard to resist, I'd say that at that point, we definitely recommend it. If it's at that higher price point and you like everything we said about the game, definitely pick it up. So what time is it, Julie?
It's time to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified when we have new content for you.
Also, down below in the video description, you'll find links to all of our social media feeds, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. There are plenty of pictures of me playing Tapestry, as well as Julie and I playing Tapestry. That'll be showing up on the feed in the coming days. And popping up in front of us are going to be links to some of our previously released content. The one over here will take you to our most recently released video, and the one in front of Julie will take you to our review of the forthcoming, or perhaps recently released, depending on when you get to this video, Pendulum from Stonemaier Games. So, now what do we need to do?
We need to grab our drinks.
We're still friends?
I think so.
Excellent.
So
our best friend?
Yep. And we're going to keep playing games.
Playing games. Looking forward to getting this back out to the table.
Yeah, someday. Maybe not right away. We have a lot of games, so I'm looking forward.
We have a lot of games to handle right now.
It's a nice problem to have.
Yes, it really is.